Tonight in 9 News, shopping centre alert. A Chadstone Boost Juice worker tests positive as the list of Southland exposure sites grows. Shorter wait times after extra resources were brought in to handle testing demand. A Kyabram grandfather perishes in an early morning fire. His family pays tribute. Donald Trump caught on tape threatening officials in a last-ditch effort to overturn the election result. The soaring cost of back-to-school supplies, how you can save this year. And crowds slashed for the Sydney Test as India digs in over Brisbane.
This is 9 News with Alicia Loxley.
Good evening. The Black Rock outbreak has spread its tentacles to Melbourne's largest suburban shopping centre. Chadstone joins more outlets at Southland on a growing list of high-risk locations after Victoria recorded 3 new local cases. Reid Butler begins our coverage.
Boost Juice at Chadstone closed. A staff member who last worked at this outlet between 6 p.m. and 11 p.m. last Tuesday has now tested positive. That's one of 3 new locally acquired infections today, all linked to the Black Rock cluster, which now stands at 24. Testing numbers are good, more than 32,460. The government hopeful we're on track to return to donut days sooner rather than later.
High testing numbers, low case numbers is providing us with this situation that we can be optimistic.
That optimism also being felt in New South Wales, just 2 cases recorded there today.
The contact tracing exercise, the testing and the isolation efforts that are being done in both Victoria and New South Wales are bearing fruit.
But the list of exposure sites in Victoria is growing, particularly at Southland. New high-risk locations at the centre include Myer, Kmart, Coles, Specsavers, Cotton On and Badero. Anyone who visited Puffing Billy on the afternoon of New Year's Eve must also monitor for symptoms, and the risk of transmission at Grape and Grain liquor sellers in Moorabbin has escalated. A 2-week quarantine order is now in place for customers during certain times from December 21 to December 29.
People have been obviously been on holidays, and so that has seen a greater movement of people, which has led to a greater number of exposure sites being identified.
There are now close to 100 of those exposure sites. They include in the city Federation Square, Nando's on Elizabeth Street and Yarra River Cruise in Docklands, as well as IKEA Springvale, Kmart and Coles in Burwood, Coles Middle Camberwell, Coles Churnside Park, Woolworths and Kmart Clayton, Woolworths Mentone, a Sikh Temple in Keysborough, Chemist Warehouse Cheltenham, the Sandringham Train Line and TK Maxx in Frankston. The advice, if you've been to those locations and develop symptoms, get tested immediately.
We still have a way to go because we do want to reach for those 0 days.
There was 1 case recorded today in the state's hotel quarantine program, but it's the quarantine plan for international Australian Open players causing controversy. The 36 permanent residents of the Western Hotel, where the arrivals will spend their 2 weeks in isolation, have launched legal action to stop the plan.
No consultation at all. We just got told what was happening and that was it. I couldn't believe it.
Well, again, it seems that the state government hasn't quite got the sequence right here.
The Supreme Court action could delay the February 8 start of the tournament, but the government has defended the decision.
Arrangements are being put in place so there is no contact between the existing residents and the people staying associated with the Australian Open.
Jacinta Allen also defending a case of the sniffles today. But she won't be taking a COVID test.
I have the delightful affliction of having some allergies, and living in regional Victoria and heading into Melbourne from time to time only exacerbates them.
And Reid is at Chadstone this evening. Reid, what's the advice for shoppers?
Well, the good news is, Alicia, I understand the employee who was working at the Boost Juice in Chadstone wasn't actually infectious while they were doing their shift last week. That means the site is low risk, but because it is such a high traffic area, the shopping centre is taking no chances. The entire centre has undergone a deep clean with a particular ramped up focus on high touch point areas like information screens, escalators, elevators, doors and toilets. As we've seen with Southland and Chadstone and other retailers, they do keep popping up on exposure sites. That is why the government says it is mandatory to wear a mask inside and follow those rules we've all gotten so used to, like keeping our distance from other shoppers and using hand sanitizer. But perhaps most importantly, Alicia, if we develop any symptoms at all, even if we haven't visited these high-risk sites, it is vital we get tested as soon as possible.
Great messages to repeat. All right, Reid, thank you very much. Well, the state government has come under fire for a frustrating lag in testing capability, with wait times again stretching into hours at many sites. Extra staff have been deployed as some tried to join the queue for a third day running. Stephanie Anderson reports.
Under dreary skies, thousands of Victorians once again turned out, waiting in line to take their test.
I got up at about 5:30 to get here by 6.
Just wanted to beat the rush.
That rush became overwhelming on the weekend, with workers abused and dozens turned away, a mess the opposition says the government should have seen coming.
The government had 10 months to plan for this. They had one job, and they couldn't do it.
Our health workers and other associated testing staff who didn't get any sort of a break in 2020 deserved the opportunity to have a break when we had no cases for 61 days. And then when the call to arms was put out and the request to come out and get tested, they have responded very, very strongly.
From Epping to Parkdale, Greensborough to the Aquatic Centre, today the effort to double capacity appears to have kicked in, because while waits still stretched into the hours, those queues kept moving.
The extended hours, the additional sites, we are expecting the sites to be able to accommodate the demand.
Among the lines, tens of thousands who made it back from New South Wales before the border closed. They're now required to test and isolate, but for many, that's proven pretty hard.
When did you first try to get in?
Yesterday and the day before.
And you've been turned away twice?
Yeah.
Third time lucky?
Third time lucky, correct.
I think it's very frustrating when they tell us that we need to get tested within 24 hours, but then there's no facility to be able to do that.
While the wait times have been significant at many of these sites, the turnaround for test results remains fairly steady, with the government today confirming 86% of patients are receiving their text within 24 hours. For the vast majority, it'll be welcome confirmation they're all clear, taking Victoria another step closer to putting this scare well behind us.
I think we're just holding our breath and just hoping for the best.
Stephanie Anderson, 9 News.
Contact tracers in Sydney are scrambling to keep a lid on the cluster in the city's west, where a further 2 infections have emerged. As Charles Croucher explains, the transport worker who unknowingly spread the virus at a bottle shop had no symptoms.
Sydney Airport this morning. Dozens of workers in uniforms of high-vis, masks and the military. Tonight, this is the state's most vulnerable COVID frontline, with more travellers and more risk.
It does require additional vigilance, I think, and we've also seen that the rate of infection from overseas travellers is increasing.
For the first time since the Northern Beaches outbreak on the 17th of December, there were no new community transmissions in the 24-hour reporting period, and 7 in hotel quarantine. There'll be no change for the Northern Beaches residents in lockdown, despite authorities now holding far greater concerns for the city's southwest. No lockdown looming there.
There won't be any lockdown of the Cumberland area. There won't be any lockdown in any other parts of Sydney. The restrictions that we have in place are strong enough to deal with what we have in front of us.
Overnight, 2 cases, both linked to the Baralla cluster, the outbreak traced to patient transfer and spread throughout the busy Christmas period at this BWS in the city's west. They'll be counted in tomorrow's figures.
At the time where the person entered the BWS, they had no symptoms and no reason at all to think they had COVID infection.
Authorities less forgiving of this wedding in Fairfield. 700 attended, the venue earning a $5,000 fine.
I'm actually quite disgusted that anybody would put their community at risk that way. If they did it for money, well then they really need to have a good hard look at themselves.
Tonight, there's new alerts in the west for a screening of the Croods at Auburn's Reading Cinema, a hair and beauty salon in Lidcombe, as well as the Woolworths on New Year's Eve.
If you've been tested previously, but you're still feeling unwell or you have a symptom, get tested again. If you have a symptom, get tested.
The silly season may be over, but not yet the scare. Charles Croucher, 9 News.
A Kyabram grandfather has died after becoming trapped inside his burning home. Alan Balfour's housemate tried desperately to save him, but was forced to flee the property before the 66-year-old could make it out. Crime reporter Lana Murphy.
Newly married and on the cusp of enjoying the best years of his life, Alan Balfour cared for 2 things: fishing
and family. But now his wife and sister are taking comfort in the arms of others outside the scorched home where the 66-year-old took his final breath.
A bit shattered, shocked. Don't think there's any words that could really describe it. He was pretty cheeky, just make all kinds of stuff out of timber or steel.
Lynn Garner visited her brother's Kyabram unit 2 days ago. Today it was a charred shell teeming with arson chemists trying to determine how a fireball consumed it before 5 a.m.
The windows just went bang, like a bomb going off. That's how intense the fire was.
It was so fast moving, the grandfather of 4 had no way of escaping. His 40-year-old housemate, who woke to the smell of smoke, screamed for the handyman, but was forced out by the flames.
He was quite shook up, but, you know, he looked really solid.
Easily could be a double fatality, if not more.
There were early reports the blaze may have been sparked by a cigarette.
We're looking at all avenues in relation to electrical, accidental.
What is certain is the home will never be inhabitable again, and a wife who envisioned her future there will instead face a new one as a widow.
Devastated.
Lana Murphy, 9 News.
Many Australians on JobKeeper will take home less from today. The payment has been cut by up to $200 a fortnight. But with fresh COVID outbreaks, there are calls to extend it at the higher rate. Here's Fiona Willan.
It's far from a pub with no beer. But like many businesses, the dock in Canberra is still short on customers due to COVID-19 restrictions.
Our current capacity is just above 50% of normal capacity, so we're still not quite running on all cylinders.
The owners have relied on JobKeeper wage subsidies.
Without it, there's no way that we could have kept the doors open and kept all our staff.
But the government is now trying to wean businesses off the program. From today, JobKeeper drops from $1,200 a fortnight to $1,000 for full-time workers, or from $750 a fortnight to $650 for workers on fewer than 20 hours, before ending altogether on March 28.
If it was to end in March and we're still restricted, then yeah, that's going to be extremely hard to keep the business profitable.
But with recent COVID outbreaks in New South Wales and Victoria and new border restrictions, Labor says it's too soon to lower the payments.
At the very time that restrictions are going up and therefore economic activity going down, the government's support goes down today.
I think it should be extended. I think people need it sort of more than ever at the moment.
I think it definitely should be extended for those that are genuinely in need for it.
And we'll continue to monitor the economy to make sure that the supports that we're providing Australians are appropriate for the economic conditions that are before us.
The government says many workers on JobKeeper won't notice that their payment's been reduced because their employers are making up the difference between the subsidy and their usual wage. More than 500,000 employers are using the subsidies to pay around 1.6 million workers. But those businesses will now have to pass a new turnover test to prove they're still eligible. Fiona Willan, 9 News.
Donald Trump threatened officials in Georgia, urging them to find votes and overturn the election during a bombshell-leaked phone call. As Amelia Adams reports, it's kicked off a fiery week in Washington with Congress meeting to certify Joe Biden's victory.
New members of the 117th US Congress sworn in with new traditions as Capitol Hill prepares for a new president. But the outgoing Commander-in-Chief is launching a final desperate bid to remain in power.
I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state.
In an hour-long phone call leaked by the Washington Post, Donald Trump pressures Georgia's Republican Secretary of State to find a way to change the outcome of the presidential poll.
We have won this election in Georgia, and there's nothing wrong with saying that, that you've recalculated.
Well, Mr. President, the challenge that you have is the data you have is wrong.
President Trump referring to rumours of vote shredding and resorting to threats.
You know what they did, and you're not reporting it. That's a criminal offence.
Joe Biden won Georgia by close to 12,000 votes. Today, his vice president-elect campaigned there.
It was a bald-faced, bold,
abuse of power by the President of the United States.
Ahead of runoff elections to determine which party will hold a majority in the Senate.
Everything's on the table. I'm fighting for this president because he's fought for us.
Tonight, there are calls for Donald Trump to be prosecuted. Joe Biden's team says the phone call to Georgia officials is irrefutable proof of the president pressuring a member of his own party to fabricate the vote count, while legendary Watergate journalist Carl Bernstein describes the tape as the ultimate smoking gun.
In any other presidency, this tape would be evidence enough to result in the impeachment of the President of the United States, his conviction.
While it took Republicans years to turn on President Nixon, Donald Trump has sustained his hold on the party. Later this week, a group of loyal GOP senators will object to the Electoral College vote.
You should want to have an accurate election, and you're a Republican.
We believe that we do have an accurate election.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
In the United States, Amelia Adams, 9 News.
All right, Clint Sunaway is with us now with a look ahead to tonight's sport.
Evening, Alicia. Thanks for that. Australia's cricketers touched down in Sydney earlier today, but behind the scenes, India continue to play a few games. Here's Braden Ingram.
Clint, the tourists are fighting to avoid another hard quarantine stint when they hit Queensland, but they were bolstered by some good news today that all of their players and staff have returned negative COVID-19 tests, and that includes the 5 players who breached cricket's biosecure bubble at Chadstone. Now, despite India's opposition to being locked in hotels in Sydney and Brisbane, Cricket Australia has doubled down on assurances that the final 2 tests will be played as scheduled, and I'll have more later in sport.
Braden, thanks so much for that. Also tonight, Alicia, former North Melbourne coach Rhys Shaw. He's got a new job, which is great news. The curious case of Cameron Smith from the Storm, the arrival of a Melbourne young gun, could be a big giveaway in that one. And how about this? Steph Curry's insane day out on the court. He just couldn't stop scoring. That's all coming up very soon in sport, Alicia.
Very nice indeed. We'll see you soon, Clint. Thank you. Police say it's lucky a driver caught doing nearly 150 kilometres an hour in a 60 zone didn't kill anyone. Surging British COVID cases prompt calls for a harsher lockdown and results in an hour the treatment helping Australians catch up on skin cancer checks.
We're talking MDMA, cocaine.
Who is really caring for your kids?
You've got people that are centre hopping, that are using drugs on the weekend. It's a recipe for disaster.
The frustrated daycare owner calling for nationwide drug tests on staff.
We need to know our children are being looked after properly.
A current affair next.
They're the mysteries that have baffled investigators and remained unsolved.
A young woman steps into a mysterious red car and is never seen again.
In a new landmark event series, Liz Hayes and a crack team of criminal minds put them under the spotlight.
For the first time, you'll be at the table inside an unfolding investigation.
Unearthing fresh revelations.
We're dealing with a psychopath.
To bring new hope.
No one knows this mystery better.
The whole house of cards starts to unravel.
From the producers of 60 Minutes.
We won't stop until we crack it.
Under investigation. Coming soon to 9.
As part of Victoria's Big Build, we're building North East Link. The project's new tunnels, as well as extra lanes on the Eastern Freeway, will make travelling around Melbourne and to the airport quicker and safer. It's the missing link in Melbourne's freeway network. In January, lanes will be closed on Greensboro Road and there will be overnight lane closures on Bulletin Road. Find out if you're affected at bigbuild.vic.gov.au. Authorised by Victorian Government, Melbourne.
Hi, climb aboard, Dragon Rider.
Join a gang of unlikely friends.
Follow your heart and the truth will come to you.
On a magical quest.
Whoa!
Dragon Rider.
Whatever your plans for the new year, E&S have the perfect appliances at prices you'll want to celebrate. Like this Electrolux fridge, only $13.99. Or this massive Fisher & Paykel fridge, only $23.99. And get 20% off the entire Villeroy & Boch range. Our warehouses are fully stocked and we offer free delivery on washers, dryers, dishwashers and fridges. And we won't be beaten on price. So visit one of our 9 showrooms today or shop online and get the E&S feeling for less.
Here at Amart Furniture, it's the last days of our Boxing Day sale, with up to 50% off a huge range of stylish pieces. You'd better get a move on. Amart Furniture. Sale ends tomorrow.
Caught travelling more than double the speed limit, a 21-year-old man's black Subaru has been impounded near Chadstone Shopping Centre. Police say he was clocked at 148 in the 60-kilometre zone. Highway Patrol slammed his actions, saying it was a ridiculous speed and he was lucky he didn't kill someone. He's facing several speeding offences. Boris Johnson is under pressure to impose an urgent national lockdown as case numbers skyrocket in Britain. With the first Oxford-AstraZeneca jab to be administered within hours, there are also calls to speed up the vaccination program. Ben Avery has the latest.
Life in England could get worse before it gets better.
It may be that we need to do things in the next few weeks that will be tougher.
Boris Johnson is yet to specify exactly what that means, but the UK opposition has been clearer with its demands.
Bringing those restrictions now, national restrictions, within the next 24 hours, that has to be the first step to controlling the virus.
Much of the country is already living under the top tier of restrictions and primary schools are being closed in many areas. But the Prime Minister is promising it won't be forever. The rollout of the Oxford-AstraZeneca vaccine will begin within the next few hours, and there are plans for a rapid rollout of both the Oxford and the Pfizer jabs.
We do hope that we'll be able to do tens of millions in the course of the next 3 months.
But as a fast-moving variant of COVID-19 continues to sweep across the country, Boris Johnson has been accused of not being ambitious enough. One of his predecessors says the UK needs to radically ramp up its immunisation program with a goal of giving 5 million doses every week.
We need to mobilise resources on a scale that we've never seen before in peacetime in this country. We have to accelerate this strategy in a profound way.
But the UK will still be well ahead of Australia, which is not expected to approve the Oxford vaccine until at least the end of this month, before a possible rollout in March. In London, Ben Avery, 9 News.
It's the annual expense parents dread, back to school costs. A new report found the average spend on uniforms, shoes and stationery nudges $600 per child. And not surprisingly, the pandemic is being blamed for this year's jump. But there are some ways to save. You can stay tuned for a special report later in 9 News. An Australian woman is said to be shaken and traumatised after she was arrested and charged in Tanzania over a satirical social media post. Zara Kay is the founder of Faithless Hijabi, an organisation supporting women who have left Islam.
We talk about topics that have often been stigmatised by the Muslim community, from honour-based violence to sex and sexuality, while also empowering women to have better conversations with their families when it comes to their right to freedom.
Ms Kay tweeted to say she was on bail after being held in custody for 32 hours. The Department of Foreign Affairs says it's providing consular assistance. A leading dermatologist says patients are presenting with skin cancers that are bigger than ever after putting off checks due to the pandemic. It's prompted a faster testing technique, delivering results in less than an hour. And a warning, this report from Mia Edgerton-Warburton contains graphic images.
This is a surgery John Caron never thought he'd need. He doesn't spend much time in the sun and wears sunscreen when he does. But here, Dr Ernest Tan is removing a skin cancer from John's ear. He had thought it was just an unusual freckle.
Like most men, I'd probably sort of put up with it for quite some time.
Perth dermatologist Dr Tan says patients are now also getting their spots checked later because of the pandemic.
So we're seeing some of them actually not presenting early, so the tumours are larger. Well, that's one of the downside of COVID.
And that's why Dr Tan believes his fast technique is more important than ever. One of only 16 dermatologists in Australia who performs Mohs surgery.
We put local anaesthetic in first. The lesion is marked out, and then we take a tiny sliver of skin.
Once removed, the biopsy is brought here to the lab where it can be analysed within 45 minutes. That means patients get their results and can be treated again before they step foot out of the clinic. If it is skin cancer, Dr. Tan will remove it in the same day, as opposed to more traditional methods which take weeks.
I think it takes a fair bit of that anxiety out of it.
Success rates are high and the scars are small. Mohs surgery is used often in the United States and is now becoming more widely available here in Australia, where the rates of skin cancer are some of the worst in the world. The technology effective for treating the two most common types on the neck and head. But the Australian Medical Association says to find the best treatment for you, consult your GP first.
If you have a spot on your skin that looks suspect, go and see your doctor. There's a myriad of non-surgical and surgical treatments they can offer you, and if they think it's appropriate, they'll refer you to an appropriately trained specialist.
Okay, John, so you can hop up when you're ready.
Mia Edgerton-Warburton, 9 News.
A moment of precision flying high over the Northern Territory. An RAAF Airbus received a mid-flight fuel up from a Singapore Air Force A330. It was the first time an aircraft from a foreign nation has refuelled one of our giant tankers. The tricky manoeuvre was part of a training exercise between the two nations. All right, Madeline Slattery joins us now with a check on the weather, and it's been quite miserable today, Maddie.
It sure has, Alicia. Grey, dreary, drizzly and miserable. And while it was at least warm over the weekend, today the city only reached a maximum of 19. So it was a very slow day for the mercury, only warming up 3 degrees from a low of 16. There were some heavy falls overnight as a moist southeasterly flow dropped quite a bit of rain, particularly over the Otways. Mount Sabine recorded the most with 194 millimetres. There were 119 millimetres at Mount Cowley near Lorne. Wilson's Prom in West Gippsland recorded 32, and closer to the city, Ferny Creek had 16 millimetres yesterday and a further 14 today. And tonight, Melbourne is likely to be in the firing line of that system. I'll let you know how much rain is on the way later in the Bulletin, Alicia.
All right, Maddie, we'll see you very soon. With America's COVID death toll surging past 350,000, Donald Trump has called the tally fake news. Next, Anthony Fauci fires back. The Defence Force helping Fiji bounce back after a destructive cyclone. And the selfish cyclist that wouldn't let anyone get in his way.
Every single morning, they're with you.
Good morning, I'm Carl Stefanovic.
And I'm Alison Langdon.
For what happened in the world while you were sleeping.
Coronavirus vaccine will be on our shores by March.
Kerry, good morning to you. What's behind the latest government messaging?
The best in breakfast news, bar none.
Fast, reliable and trusted.
And it's a responsibility we take very seriously.
Wake up, turn on, find out with Today.
The Fantastic Summer event is on now, and there's something for the whole family. Save on kids' furniture, beds, mattresses, sofas, and heaps more. Find your Fantastic. Shop in store or online today. Don't miss the Fantastic Summer event.
Aldi's back to school range passes the kid test. With spacious backpacks, only $19.99. And school stationery, only 49 cents each. Kid-proof school gear at Aldi's low prices. That's good different.
You might be having a baby.
No way.
Ollie, why didn't you tell me? I didn't know that you were gonna love her.
The brand new Stan original series, Bump, now streaming only on Stan.
Now this is a story all about how fast food got flipped, turned upside down. And I'd like to take a minute, just sit right there. I'll tell you how to dish the fries and eat fresh everywhere. On burgers and fries, we were born and raised with the dirty birds having their greasier ways. There was all in the bag and we washed it all pool, supplementing tiny burgers with a side of French foods. When a couple of guys who were up to some good started serving fresh in my neighborhood, I took one huge bite of that foot-long bread and said, yo, skip the grease and eat fresh instead. I wished for something better and then it came here. The meatballs and tomatoes and lettuce leaves appeared. If anything, I could ask why good food was real, then I thought I'd forget it. Eat fresh is here!
You're reopening the investigation.
I'd want to know what happened to Ellie.
You want to be careful, Gretch. Birds that hang around with this fella tend to end up dead.
Go!
Under the Milky Way too.
Some things are worth the wait. The Ford plate clearance is back with great savings on selected 2020 plate vehicles, including Ranger and Everest. But don't wait any longer, because once they're gone, they're gone.
The explosive new claims from a Hillsong whistleblower who says she was traumatised by her time in the church.
I was nothing to anybody.
A current affair next.
2 men are fighting for life after their car smashed into a tree east of Melbourne. The Toyota Tarago, carrying 6 people, was travelling along D Road at Millgrove when the vehicle veered off the road and struck a tree at around 10:30. The driver, in his 20s, and the front passenger were airlifted to the Alfred, while the other 4 were driven to hospital, each in a stable condition. Coronavirus has claimed 350,000 lives in the United States, but President Trump says the soaring death toll is fake news. Kate Creedon tells us the country's top doctor was quick to retaliate as millions of Americans ignore the health advice.
No masks, no social distancing. This pool party in Florida underway as the state logged record case numbers. And as the US COVID-19 death toll ticked over 351,000, the president declared it false, tweeting, "The number of cases and deaths of the China virus is far exaggerated in the United States because of the CDC's ridiculous method of determination. Fake news." The nation's top health officials discrediting that claim within minutes.
From a public health perspective, I have no reason to doubt those numbers, and I think people need to be very aware that it's not just about the deaths, it's about the hospitalizations.
The deaths are real deaths. I mean, all you need to do is to go out into the trenches, go to the hospitals, see what the healthcare workers are dealing with.
Dr. Anthony Fauci's response exacerbating his tense relationship with Donald Trump, the president having the last word on social media. Dr. Fauci is revered by the lamestream media, yet he works for me and the Trump administration, and I am in no way given any credit for my work. Could this just be more fake news? Amid the politics, the US Surgeon General desperate to keep the nation's focus on the virus.
There's a finish line in sight, but we've got to keep running towards it.
Kate Creedon, 9 News.
Bali's once popular tourist beaches are now covered in rubbish, with garbage collectors picking up between 30 to 60 tonnes of litter every day. Monsoon season usually brings the unwanted debris, but locals say it's far worse. The holiday island's governor has called for urgent action to clean up the coastlines, which are a huge tourist drawcard, so when international travel resumes, they can welcome people back. Anger has boiled over in Iraq on the first anniversary of the assassination of a top general and a militia commander. Tens of thousands took to the streets of Baghdad chanting anti-American slogans, with many in the crowd demanding revenge. 2 base jumpers have caused panic in Nashville when they walked to the edge of a rooftop bar and simply jumped off.
They're gone! Oh my God!
Patrons began yelling before realising they'd deployed parachutes and landed safely in a car park. And an impatient cyclist has sparked outrage after using his knee to knock over a child in Belgium. The video, taken by the little girl's father, shows the entire incident, which occurred in a snow-covered park on Christmas Day. The unrepentant rider has since been identified by police after the family made a complaint. Well, hundreds of Australian soldiers are in storm-stricken Fiji, delivering help and supplies in the wake of Cyclone Yasa. For a group of children, the mission means they'll now have a new classroom when school returns. More from Lauren Tomasi.
Sailing through the blue and in the sight of these Australian soldiers, a cyclone-battered Fiji. They're aboard the HMAS Adelaide on a $4.5 million humanitarian mission. On December 17, the island nation was hit by one of the strongest storm systems ever recorded. Tropical cyclone Yasa carving a path of destruction, smashing the archipelago with wind gusts of up to 345 kilometres an hour. The storm killing 4 people, destroying dozens of homes, and on the remote island of Galoa, all but flattening the local school. Today, the rebuilding begins, aided by aircraft and specialist medical and engineering teams who are delivering relief supplies and clearing debris.
I'm really proud to be here supporting our Fijian family, our Pacific family, especially after their efforts to come and support us during the bushfires.
For the smallest members of the community, that now means there's a classroom for when they return to school in 2 weeks' time. Of course, the crew has had to contend with COVID. Every soldier swabbed before leaving our shores and on board a fully equipped testing lab. A boatload of Aussies doing what we do best, lending our mates a hand. Lauren Tomasi, 9 News.
There's proof back to school costs are going up. The average is nearly $600 per child. Next, how to avoid breaking the budget. $300,000 worth of watches and rings swiped from a Bayside home. And tributes to the music man who created a sporting anthem.
Who is really caring for your kids? The frustrated daycare owner calling for nationwide drug tests on staff. A current affair next.
The Gold Coast. It's where Australia goes to play. But if you party too hard,
anything can happen at any time.
You're going to get caught.
Bit short of underwear, like laundry day.
This is your final warning. Community, protected and served.
New Gold Coast Cops tonight, 7:30 on 9.
Let's celebrate the return of our most cherished rituals and embrace the people whose passion is the lifeblood of our city. Stay close, go further. It's time to rediscover your Melbourne.
Now this is a story all about how fast food got flipped, turned upside down. And I'd like to take a minute, just sit right there. I'll tell you how to dish your fries and eat fresh everywhere. Burgers and fries, we were born and raised with the dirty birds having their greasier ways. I took one huge bite of that foot-long bread and said, yo, skip the grease and eat fresh instead.
Ooh, been through a bit to get here? Worth it. Check out this finance offer on CHR.
Make any excuse this plate clearance. Get a 3.9% comparison rate across the CHR range. Oh, what a feeling. Toyota.
At Coles, you can slice, dice and prep like a pro with free chef quality knives. You'll earn a knife credit for every $20 you spend in one transaction when you scan your Flybuys card. Plus, get a bonus knife credit when you purchase selected products from participating brands. There's a knife for every cooking occasion for you to collect. Start earning bonus credits to complete your chef quality knife collection. Coles, value the Australian way.
Who says a local hero can't inspire the world? That this is unreachable? This is unmakeable? Or this unplayable? Who says you can't give it everything, every time? That 23 slams can't be beat? And that today can't be the day. AO 2021, no place for impossible.
The art of the charcuterie board. Mouth-watering salami, irresistible prosciutto, and there it is, a charcuterie board piled high with flavour.
Charcuterie?
Oh, Hans.
It's actually Hans.
Heavenly shades of night are falling.
Wonder and vision. Aren't we a fine pair?
This is our home now. I want us to fit in.
Oh, this is gonna be a gas!
Is this really happening?
Welcome home.
Rizzoli and Isles.
What was he serving? Not a knife. Are we playing process of elimination again?
And the closer.
I know exactly what you did and exactly how you did it.
Stream both on 9 Now. Your world of free entertainment.
7 Rolex watches and 2 rings valued at $300,000 have been swiped from a safe inside a Brighton East home. Detectives believe the thieves struck at the Glenifer Avenue property sometime between December 10 and 15. Crime Stoppers is asking anyone with information to come forward. Hot on the heels of Christmas, back-to-school expenses threaten to blow many family budgets. As Maggie Rayworth discovered, this year essential items like books and stationery cost more.
With 4 teenagers, Simone Carroll knows the pressures of a new school year.
Incredibly frenetic. It's always, I feel like I'm always rushing at the last minute.
She believes school supplies are getting more expensive.
It's kind of something that you look at your bills and you go, oh my God, I can't believe I'm spending this much.
She's not alone. The Back to School 2020 report conducted by YouGov on behalf of Big W revealed costs are on the rise.
Really surprised to see such a significant price hike in the cost of back to school this year.
The report found parents can expect to spend an average of $592 on school supplies per child in 2021. That's an increase of $54 on last year. Mums and dads are expected to fork out $284 on technology for each child. On average, uniforms will set them back $180, shoes another $111, stationery $92 and a school bag $58. That's largely because due to the pandemic, parents are now paying for items usually shared.
Schools have moved towards more online platforms and also obviously, they're not sharing their supplies. So there is a little bit of extra things for people to buy this year.
The report found 83% of parents found back to school shopping stressful. Visiting multiple stores adds pressure and having the kids present doesn't help either. Retail experts say there are ways to make the experience cheaper and easier.
One of the big traps that parents often fall into is simply reordering the entire book list. Shop it yourself.
His top tips include buy second-hand books and uniforms when possible, shop at retailers that offer student discounts on devices, and if it's still okay, reuse stationery from the previous year. Maggie Rayworth, 9 News.
All right, let's take a look at the finance numbers now. And the All Ordinaries finished the day nearly 1.5% higher. Banking and resources stocks made solid gains. And our dollar is buying 76.97 US cents and 56.29 British pence. The housing market has started the new year on a high, with Australian home values finishing 2020 3% stronger overall. According to CoreLogic, buyer numbers surged through the second half of the year, with almost 8% more sales relative to a year ago. Coronavirus only resulted in a minor dip in values, despite a 40% drop in residential transactions during March and April. Jerry Marsden, the Jerry from 60s English hit machine Jerry and the Pacemakers, has died at the age of 78. The Merseyside singer-songwriter will be remembered for anthems sung by fans and in sporting arenas around the world. Mike Dalton compiled this tribute.
It was a record that even the Beatles could not beat. 3 number ones with their first 3 releases.
How do you do what you do to me? I like it, I like it.
When the British beat exploded in the early 60s, it was Jerry and the Pacemakers leading the charge.
Come on down to the cavern where the young ones go. Swing to the beat of the Mersey sound.
For a brief moment, they were bigger than the Beatles.
I used to play at the same charity dues and school dues, so I knew them from them early days. I only had one bloody mistake. I should have joined them.
From this platform of pop power would quickly come the almost autobiographical movie that created another hit. The inspiration for the riff sung down a public telephone.
I said, Mum, quick, go and get me tape machine and plug, play and record.
You are kidding.
No, and she said, what? I said, oh, Mum, come on, I'm going to forget it.
But the Pacemakers would break up in 1967, before the call of nostalgia kept the band ticking over through the following decades. Jerry Marsden, always up front. And that third number one would be adopted with vigour by Liverpool Soccer Club as its anthem. The song again covered this year as a COVID fundraiser. Marsden battled heart disease in later life, retiring in 2018. He died yesterday after a short illness. A life lived under the spotlight that seemed magnetically drawn to Jerry Marsden.
I love being on stage. It's my life. It's always been my life. I've always wanted to be on stage enjoying myself because show business is great.
Mike Dalton, 9 News.
Amazing career, wasn't it? All right, now with tonight's sport, here is Clint Stanaway.
Hello again, Alicia. Thanks so much for that. After the break in sport, officials now bow to pressure. Sydney's test capacity slashed. Plus, the GOAT backs Warner to play, but the Aussies have been dealt a fresh injury blow. Stoinis goes bang. Could this be the knock that breaks Melbourne's drought? The Suns pounce on the former Roos coach. And Curry runs hot, a new career high for the Warriors superstar.
Helping Hugo, the family calling for Australia Post to pay for their pup's vet bill after he was hit by a delivery van in the driveway. A current affair next.
Your spare pair. Your new style of hair pair. The flying through the air pair. We could all use a second pair. At Specsavers, get 2 designer pairs, no gap, from the $199 single vision range when you're with selected health funds.
You have personal history with the girl who died in a river 20 years ago.
You lied back then, Aaron. I've always known.
No need to shop around when you shop with Appliances Online, the world's biggest brands at great prices, including Bosch, Fisher & Paykel, Westinghouse, Samsung and Asato. For great prices every day, visit appliancesonline.com.au now.
OMG. The MG event is now on and there's never been a better time to buy. With great drive-away prices across Australia's best-selling light hatch and Australia's best value compact SUV with MG's 7-year unlimited kilometre warranty. Offer ends soon.
You're reopening the investigation.
I'd want to know what happened to Ellie. Where were you that afternoon?
Why would I lie?
Your dad wants me to download a playlist. Oh, no. Nah, it'll take ages.
Not on 5G.
So many things that I can't touch I'm all out of faith.
You and me, Darren.
This is how I feel.
Your iPhone 12 Pro deserves Australia's best 5G.
Let's get to work. James Jacks, will you look at that?
I told you to pay attention to the road.
Clearly this wasn't my fault. Maybe not, but you've taken a wrong turn on this one. Your insurance policy is monstrous.
You know, if you had Budget Direct car insurance, you'd get a hire car while yours gets repaired. And you could save hundreds.
Are we there yet?
Not at fault. Get a hire car while yours gets repaired. Just give us the other driver's details. Budget Direct. Insurance solved.
Jamie Sullivan, he's lying.
You think you're going to get the truth in a town like this?
As part of Victoria's Big Build, we're removing 75 dangerous and congested level crossings, with 44 already gone, creating thousands of jobs and making your journey safer and easier. As we bring the pieces together, buses will replace trains on the Craigieburn line between Newmarket and Broadmeadows from the 8th to the 16th of January. Find out if you're affected at bigbuild.vic.gov.au. Authorised by the Victorian Government, Melbourne.
We're kicking off the year with Event Television that will sweep the nation. Australia's favourite game show is back.
The greatest quiz show on the planet is back with prime time special events. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? The special events coming in January on 9.
Welcome back. Cricket Australia is adamant it's all systems go for the upcoming Brisbane Test, but behind closed doors, India's concerns over strict quarantine restrictions continue to grow. Here's Braden Ingram.
After an extended stay in Melbourne, the Aussies finally made their move north, where the CEO was sticking to his guns.
We're all systems go for the third test here in Sydney and then the fourth test at the Gabba.
India too standing firm on its objection to stricter restrictions, with both teams confined to their hotels except for training and the final 2 tests.
In my eyes, we just have to suck it up and get on with it.
Everyone's very clear on the expectations and what's involved.
Cricket Australia's boss playing a straight bat to suggestions the touring team is playing mind games.
We've had nothing formal from the BCCI to suggest anything other than they're supportive.
3 days out from the crucial SCG clash, Australia looks set to roll the dice with opener David Warner. And although he won't be fully recovered from a groin injury, that's a risk they're willing to take.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I think David's a X factor. He's a world-class batter. 100% expecting David to go out there in the next couple of test matches and do well.
Backup paceman James Pattinson hasn't travelled with the squad after sustaining a rib injury in a fall at home. And news tonight that the crowd for the SCG test has been slashed in half again, now down to 25% capacity. It means no more than 10,000 fans will be able to attend on any one day of the match. Masks will be mandatory indoors inside the stadium, while out in the stands they'll be strongly encouraged. And Clint, in an added challenge for organisers, rain's predicted for the opening couple of days of the test.
Sydney weather, hey? Thanks, Braden. There's been a timely return to form for Marcus Stoinis in the Big Bash. The Stars opener blasting the very first ball he faced out of the ground in today's return bout against Hobart, and he certainly wasn't done with.
Stoinis gets it short again. He's going to bring up his 50 with a maximum.
Stoinis would end up finishing with an unbeaten 97 from just 55 balls in the Stars' total of 6 for 183. In reply, a short time ago, the Hurricanes currently 1 for 85 after 12 overs. A really feel-good footy story tonight with former North Melbourne coach Rhys Shaw making his return to the game. Let's head live to Ayrton Woolley. Ayrton, where's he landed?
Clint Rhys Shaw and his family will head up to the Gold Coast later this week after he accepted a position as head of development at the Suns. A pretty enviable position given he'll work alongside the likes of Matt Rowell, Noah Anderson and plenty of other talented young Suns. He does have a relationship with Coach Stuart Dew, good mates from their time at Sydney, of course, both assistant coaches there. He stepped aside as North Melbourne coach late last year to deal with some personal issues. The Suns clearly aware of that. They're confident now he's in a much better space.
Thankfully, once the passage of time had passed and you had some time to get well and reflect on things, it's worked out really well. So, you know, we couldn't be happier, and I'm sure our playing group's going to really benefit from having Rhys on board.
Meanwhile, the AFL has reimposed some COVID restrictions for when the clubs return to training later this week. Training will be restricted to groups of 10. That's at least until players return a negative test. Clint?
Ayrton Woolley live in our newsroom. Thank you. Rugby league news now, and Storm excitement machine Harry Grant is committed to Melbourne. That's even if Cameron Smith decides to play on in 2021. The 22-year-old was instrumental in the Maroons' upset Origin win and is now determined to have a big impact in purple.
I'm still here. I've got a few more years at Storm, so yeah, I'm just excited to be back down here, and hopefully we can stay put here for the season.
Cameron Smith still hasn't revealed his plans, but the club is preparing to play without him. That's unless they hear otherwise.
I think he's still on his book tour, but I think Smithy's probably got a few more weeks, and then they'll go from there.
Melbourne hosts South Sydney in the NRL season opener on March 11. Steph Curry has made a huge statement in the NBA. He drained a career-high 62 points in Golden State's victory over Portland, a haul that included 8 three-pointers.
62! 62!
Such was that hot streak, one of Curry's teammates decided he needed a little help cooling off post-game.
Get him!
The 7th time Curry has managed more than 50 points in a match. Incredible. And the NFL's longest playoff drought is now over, with the Cleveland Browns ending 18 years of pain. But it didn't come without a scare for the team regarded as the most cursed in American sport, with the Browns almost giving up a 15-point lead against Pittsburgh.
Rudolph fires it too high.
They'll now meet the Steelers again in the wild card playoff. I thought backing for Melbourne was hard enough.
That's the story we need to start off 2021,
exactly.
Don't you think?
Bit of hope.
Exactly. All right, Clint, thanks very much for that. Maddie is back with us now. And when will things start to warm up, Maddie?
Well, Alicia, I think everyone wants to know when the sunshine will be back. The next few days might be a bit of a slog to get through, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. A 35-degree day in the outlook. I'll have all the details after the break.
Who is really caring for your kids? The frustrated daycare owner calling for nationwide drug tests on staff. A current affair next.
At Snooze, we understand that no matter who you are, one size doesn't fit all. With Snooze Profiler technology, you'll get your own sleep profile to help take the guesswork out of choosing a bed that suits you.
Once COVID hit, I was laid off from my job in the travel industry. I felt the grief of my career, as opposed to thinking it could just be the start of something else. I think the hardest part about this life change is being okay with this life change.
It's tough out there, Australia. Every cent counts. Make sure your insurance is about where you're at right now. You could save lots. You insured. It's insurance for individuals like you.
There are many places to lose your glasses, but the best place is Medonic Laser Clinic. Medonic Laser Clinic, the best place to lose your glasses.
Tomorrow on Today, the latest news as authorities scramble to get these COVID outbreaks under control. Plus, we meet the young Aussie Harry Potter superfans whose illustrations have won the praise of J.K. Rowling herself.
It's just gorgeous.
Tomorrow from 5:30 on...
You searched a place nearby. You found a renewed love for Australia. Trivago. Compare accommodation offers nearby from the leading brands worldwide and find the right deal for you. Hotel, holiday home, family time. Trivago.
With McDelivery, Macca's comes to you so you can enjoy it at home, fast, safe and contact-free. Search Macca's website for your local delivery partner.
James Norton and Robson Green star in the acclaimed UK drama Grantchester tonight on Night Jam.
Discover the art of simplicity at the King's Summer Sale. Save on the best in Australian design. So why buy ordinary furniture when you can come home to King?
Hello again. Well, it's been a gloomy day around Melbourne after a mild night. The mercury struggled to get moving. The city only made it from a low of 16 degrees to 19, which is 7 degrees below average for this time of year. And that was the trend around town. Most suburbs only warmed up 2 or 3 degrees from their overnight minimum. It was a cool, wet day at Ferny Creek with a maximum of 14, and there's been 14 millimetres of showers since 9 a.m. Further out, Mount Sabine recorded 194 millimetres overnight, the highest 24-hour total the state's seen since 2012. Since 9 a.m, rainfall totals have mostly been between 1 and 5 millimetres, but afternoon storms delivered some heavier totals in the east. Looking further afield, and the first tropical cyclone of the season formed over the Gulf of Carpentaria last night. Tropical cyclone Imogen dumped rainfall totals of up to 250 millimetres over parts of northern Queensland. And while the system has been downgraded to a tropical low today, widespread heavy rain, flash flooding and storms will persist for at least the next 2 days. For us, showers are set to ramp up again tonight. The biggest numbers are expected around Melbourne in the early hours, generally 10 to 15 millimetres, but we could see isolated totals up to 30 millimetres. And it will be another cool, wet day for the bulk of the state tomorrow. But in good news, we will see a return of more summer-like weather later in the week. Temperatures will start to warm up on Thursday, and we'll see plenty of sunshine heading into the weekend. But first, we'll see some decent rainfall through central and eastern parts of the state on and south of the ranges from around midnight. Around 10 to 15 millimetres for central parts, 15 to 25 millimetres in Gippsland, and isolated showers in the west. And a severe weather warning for heavy rain has been issued for these areas in orange. Persistent rainfall leading to totals of 20 to 40 millimetres is expected, with isolated falls of up to 80 millimetres and flash flooding. Thunderstorms are likely to spark up in the north during the afternoon and evening. Temperature-wise, it'll be another lacklustre day in the south with maximums in the high teens and low 20s, warming up through the north, 29 degrees at Wodonga. Here in Melbourne, rain will increase later tonight. The biggest totals are most likely over central and western areas. They'll ease to showers tomorrow afternoon. Most places will get between 8 to 15 millimetres. Maximums will go a little higher than today, between 20 and 22 degrees. And that includes the city, a top of 20 from an overnight low of 16 with up to 15 millimetres. 20 degrees again on Wednesday with a possible shower. Warming up on Thursday, 25 degrees, 25 again on Friday with plenty of sunshine. Saturday should be mostly sunny, a top of 26, then 28 on Sunday. And Monday looks like a hot one, 35 degrees. But first we are in for a wet one. Rain will pick up in the early hours, then showers will be on and off for most of the day, heading for a top of 20 degrees, and then we are on the up from there, Alicia.
That is great news. All right, Maddie, thank you very much for that. And that is 9 News this Monday. Layla is up next with a current affair. I hope you have a great evening. For now, good night.